Welcome to the Leadership Heart Podcast with Sandra J. Horton, the Growth Catalyst. Well, welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be here today. Yes, I'm Sandra J. Horton, a global leadership and change strategist, and I'm welcoming back you to the Leadership Heart Podcast. This podcast lives at the intersection of conscious leadership, human connection, and the evolving realities of AI. Because in this world, we're moving faster than ever, and how we lead really truly matters. And as you can see, our beautiful guest is sitting, waiting here to be introduced. But I want to say that today we continue with these real live conversations with leaders like you, helping us to think differently, lead intentionally, and stay grounded on what matters most, especially in this evolving technology. So let's explore what leadership is becoming together. So today, my guest is T'Juana Albert. Welcome, T'Juana.
Hi, thanks for having me, Sandra.
Thanks for coming on live. So T'Juana, I'm going to a little bit about your bio because you have an amazing background. So T'Juana brings more than 25 years of leadership experience across legal, operational, and technology sectors. That's huge. A VP of Business Integration and Assurance at GumGum. And welcome if you're coming in live. Welcome, welcome. She has led global teams through complex transformation, M&A integration, and AI adoption with a leadership style that is grounded in strategy and humanity. This is so important. So I'm so excited. She's a keynote speaker. She's a podcast host, an author of the Suits and Pajamas. What a great title. A memoir of grace and grit and becoming, a powerful reflection on leadership, identity, and courage to show up authentically. And she has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, wow, and Diggity Day, CEO Weekly, and C-Suite Magazine. T'Juana brings wisdom and truth and real leadership insight into today's conversation. So let's jump on in, T'Juana. I always love to start. So what's a fun fact that maybe people don't know about you?
Well, if people have not read my book, which there are probably plenty, but the fact that I went to 11 different schools before I graduated high school, and I'm not a military brat. So most people don't believe me, but yes, I literally went to 11 different schools by the time I graduated.
Wow, that is an interesting fact, and I know there's a lot of story in those changes and those shifts. So, let's start with your book because I think it's such an interesting and fascinating, conversation. It's called, again, Suits and Pajamas. You speak about grace and grit and becoming, and how important is that? So how has your understanding of leadership evolved as you've grown personally and professionally over the years?
Yeah, I think, the reason I chose the title is because I think it's very important to share that, like, as a leader, grace becomes really important. And we don't have all the answers, right? But when you're put in a leadership role, you're made to feel like you have to. And so what I've found as I'm leading is just being humble and just saying where I have the answers, sharing them. Where I don't, put a pin in it. Tell them that I'll either get back to them or I'll direct them to the person that has the answer. It's okay. I think also it's easier to have that grace because things are evolving so quickly that for someone to say they have all the answers or to posture like they have all the answers makes you kind of wonder, are they really being authentic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the grit in the book title is really about enduring. We're going through a lot of change management in most organizations. And so you have to learn to endure it and hope you survive. But
that's so true. There's so much change that is going on and people are either engaging in it or they're withdrawing from it.
Correct. And I'm finding a common theme right now with the people who are withdrawing. Mm-hmm. It's one of two things, not all inclusive, but it's one of two things I'm finding. It's either people are burnt out and exhausted from the change that's happening, not just in the organization, but in the world right now.
Mhm.
Um, it's people are exhausted. And I think the other thing is that there's a real valid fear for a lot of people around AI and potentially what that could mean to their role or their job, because you have, on the one hand, folks saying AI is going to take your job. And then you have other folks saying, yeah, but if you learn how to use it, you make yourself more of an asset to the company. And so then you won't lose your job. And I think that
Mhm.
missing there is the internal conflict between those people who know what AI is doing to the environment, and biases that is embedded in AI. So I just think right now people are just really trying to just hang in there the best they can.
Yeah, and that's a really important conversation because you really do have not two schools. I don't want to make it like on, sides of this equation, but it is true. There
Yeah.
are some, I even see it in my own family. Myself and my husband, we're real big supporters of AI because our AI tools are as good as we are as people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like if we just dive into that piece, like the emotional intelligence of, okay, I'm going to use this tool. I'm not going to let the tool control me. I need to put my content. I need to be me in this
Yeah.
conversation with this AI agent. And
Mhm.
yet the younger generation, some of them are like, yeah, I'm using it all the time. And others are saying, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Like it's fascinating. And I don't know how, in your world and working in the leadership that you do you see differences in like from a C-suite level, from a middle management perspective, or from, the frontline individuals you work with? Do you see a
And
difference at all?
yeah, actually I do. I
Mm,
think it's what I'm leading our AI adoption, right, at
yeah.
GumGum. So I'm kind of centrally located to all of this. So I do see all of those pieces. I think from a C-suite perspective, right, you're always under pressure to generate more revenue, cut cost, right? And
Hmm.
there's the ebb and flow for leadership. And it's a tough position for C-suite people to be in, right? Because there's a human capital component of that they're always kind of trying to weigh against what's best for hitting those numbers or cutting those efficiencies with the actual human impact, right? At least if
Hmm.
you're the kind of leader that I hope most of us are striving to be, you don't ignore that piece. Then you have the people who are the users of these tools, and they're conflicted because they're using them and they're like, am I gonna like use this in a way where they realize I'm not necessary? So then
Hmm.
they hold back from really diving in because they're afraid, especially again in this economic time, they're afraid they're going to lose their jobs. That's valid. And as I said, then there's the other part of the folks that are like, yeah, AI is cool and it's great and I get it. And they all understand the value of it, but they also know that there are inherent biases that are in that. And they also know, again, the impact to the environment. For some people who are extremely environmental conscious, they're
Hmm.
not willing to lean into this work, understandably. So if you're
Yeah.
trying to push AI in your business, like you have to be aware that people are in different levels of understanding and different levels of whether or not they really want to embrace it. So yeah, you can buy these tools, but some people may not use them the way you're hoping they will.
Yeah, and that's true because there's the personal utilization of AI tools, and then there's the integration and implementation in an actual business. And
Yes.
and I find it really fascinating because there is this uncertainty. There's a lot of internal strife for some people, and others, internal acceptance, and they're moving forward. The early adopters, as we love to say, right, in change management world, and we're leading across cross-functional teams and environments where trust really comes to that critical piece, doesn't it? Because
Yes.
you have to trust your leader that you're bringing in this new AI tool. So we just stay there for a few moments.
Sure.
It's interesting. Like, what have you found? How have you been able to build that trust, that psychological safety that people really need to feel, to see, to experience, to say, oh, breathe, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay with this.
Yeah, it's my approach has always been to listen to the people. So when
Mhm.
we first started talking about rolling out or implementing, AI in the business, the very first
Mhm.
thing I did was I didn't go to the vendors that are going to talk about their tools. Of course, they're going to talk about their tools and say how amazing they are, right?
Mhm.
What I did first was I basically conducted a survey to just ask people about what are the challenges that they're experiencing in their day to day and how can we properly and responsibly adopt, not over adopt AI, because there's always going to be the human in the loop component that is critical. I don't care what AI tool you're using. And so we don't want to lose that human connection. And so in doing the survey, what I found was that I had people focus really on those many manual tasks that were really just consuming a lot of their time and just did not free them up to be more strategic. So my framing has been, as people are, sharing their issues and challenges, reminding them the more of these we can identify, the more you get to be a strategist and more of a visionary for your teams. And so that's kind of how I'm leaning into it. I've been having really good success. And I also think I have some really good sweat equity in my company. I'd like to so that people trust me and they know that I'm not going to just be performative on this. I'm very real about it, and I validate and acknowledge their concerns, but I also show them the other side of how powerful and how helpful it can be. And for those who have environmental concerns, because that's real and that's always tugging in the back of my mind, it just means you still use it, but you're more strategic about how you use it and in what cases you use it. Don't just go out there and start using all the tools just because your manager says. Like, really be thoughtful about what thing you're solving for and minimize your imprint. Because whether people realize it or not today, some of these AI tools are already embedded in our day-to-day. We just are not necessarily conscious of it, but it's there.
Yeah, and that's true. And I'm going to walk away. I love, I'm also a strategist. So I'm like, yes, I love this piece that you are talking about strategy and you're empowering people to feel like they have a voice, that they have the opportunity to be their own strategist. What a powerful way, a mindset shift to look at enablement. Like, I love that. I love that languaging and doing it in a psychologically safe way. And the other thing I love about that is that you're showing them. You're not just telling them, you're like demonstrating, you're embodying the how to do this, right? So I'm really interested also now with just diving into more about that change readiness. And welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping in, dropping in. Darlene, hello, beautiful friend. Hey, ladies. As we say back to you, hello, friend. Thanks for stopping in. That's so cool. I love that fact. And Darlene's a great friend I've known for so long. It's just so cool. And that's the great thing about going live. You get to see people who are popping in. And happy Memorial Day to my beautiful US friends. Here in Canada, we had our Victoria Day last weekend. So that was our fun time. So today, we're really diving into this intersection in the leadership heart about the AI world and just the differences. T'Juana has been working at this high level with C-suites, really leading the change and the legal aspects, the operational aspects, but also understanding that we're all people. And it's the human side of transformation that we really have to step into and embrace. So we talked about the importance of strategy. So what happens though, because this is real and I see it all the time, when there's this quiet struggling with this uncertainty, even beyond AI, the uncertainty of where we find ourselves today. So what have you found to be really helpful, empowering, motivating for the people that you're leading or in collaboration with in the workplace right now?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
I mean, but it's a very fair question, right? Mm-hmm. And there are two pieces. One, I think that leaders need to know walking into that room, everyone's on different levels of understanding about what's happening in the business, in the world, right? So you're not going to have the magic bullet that's going to solve the problems for everyone or get everyone to move forward in the same way that you're thinking about things, right? So there requires a level of humility from leaders to recognize that they don't have all the answers, which is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. You don't have them, but I think that you can really step into steadying people when you are authentic, honest, transparent to the extent that you can be, and understand and come from a place of empathy that people are in different stages of understanding. When you add to that all of the change management that's happening, I shared with Sandra earlier, like even in my company, we've done in the last 5 years, put COVID aside, that was for everyone. But we also did a couple of M&A deals that were international and of course, at a time where you really couldn't travel. So there was a lot of change for our business with that. Then we had change in leadership. We changed with our CEO in the last year. And so you have a new CEO who has things that he wants done a particular way, a vision for how he wants to move the business forward. And then you have people in the company who like the old way of how we were doing things, people who were excited about a new way of doing things, people who are then concerned about what's happening in the US in particular, whether it's political or whatever, socioeconomical, all the things. That's a lot and it's heavy. So I leaders need to really just have their finger on the pulse of the business. Don't come in thinking you know where people are, because you probably don't, especially if you work in a more diverse place, because the more diversity that you do have, people do come naturally from different perspectives and different frames of mind. So that change becomes really difficult to navigate. But if you keep your finger on the pulse, if you actually open the door for people to come and have honest conversation, you're going to get that feedback. And when you get that feedback, that's when you can really move forward in a much more meaningful and powerful way.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, you bring up some really important points around the diversity, and really, you know, being open. I mean, at the end of all of this, it's the core values, isn't it? It's the openness, it's the humility, the ability to continue to learn. And importantly, if we're going to learn, then we have to structure in this rapidly changing world, to have guardrails. This is what you put down in we were chatting about this earlier before we came on air. It's about the governance is not a guardrail, but a growth lever. How can leaders balance speed and this innovation and disruption without losing this trust, the ethics, or the humanity in the process?
Yeah, so governance becomes really important in any business today. Like it's really critical. Sometimes when you're a smaller company, and I've worked for startup companies, I've been in tech for 25 years. So I've worked from being employee number 9, and a lot of startups. But I think the one thing I will share, and it's interesting, governance has a bad rap.
It does.
It does, because I think people see it as a blocker to the innovation. My approach is totally different. So when GDPR came out as an example, that's a data privacy law that came out of the EU, and people weren't ready. But the focus that I took was having a governance framework so that no matter what other state or country developed their own data privacy laws, right? We had a framework by which to help us navigate very quickly through those changes. So here's AI. And I'm grateful for data privacy, because what data privacy did was it gave me a step up, a step ahead to helping to stand up our governance framework around AI. So what AI governance framework, what the approach I've taken is bringing all the stakeholders to the table around legal, IT, and security, which I lead IT and security, so that wasn't too hard. I used to lead our legal team, so I understood inherently what our general counsel was going to be concerned with and everything, our internal audit. So what you do is you bring those key stakeholders in early. And the reason for that is because the sooner you bring them in, the faster your adoption can happen. If you wait to bring them in either after the deal or right when you're ready to sign the deal or when you're ready to embed this tool into your platform, that's where you're going to have issues and challenges and stalls. And that's when legal gets an unfair rap, in my opinion, where they're the blocker to the business. That's not it. It's more of they're not being brought in early enough. So if you build a framework that has legal brought in early, or IT and security, cybersecurity teams early, the better. Because then what you can do is put those guardrails in place where employees and the product people and the design people know the parameters by which they can get their jobs done. And that has worked pretty well for us. We're still building out some things, tweaking some things, because AI is still fairly new, but I find it's been very successful. And those guardrails are, giving people some flexibility to maneuver, not too much, because you don't want shadow AI. And that's the main reason why we stood up our governance framework.
Do you want to share a little bit? What is the shadow AI? Explain. I think that's an interesting concept. And I know what it is, but I want you to share.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be the topic was, like shadow software, right? You have people
Yeah.
in the business. So for people who are leading in your company, if you have AI or if you don't think you have AI, yes, you do. You just don't know.
You do.
So shadow AI is exactly that. When your teams are bringing in different AI tools, whether they're downloading them on their own or inadvertently, tools that were not designed to be AI are actually turning on AI within their tool. And sometimes you don't know about it. So shadow AI is basically just having AI lurking around your environment without your knowledge. And so that becomes really tricky and that becomes a level of risk and liability to your business. So we wanted to get in front of that. I mean, we weren't quite in front of it, but I think we addressed it or came up with a plan for it faster than we would have otherwise if we didn't focus on the framework. And look, I'll be completely transparent at my company. Like when I brought up the fact that we needed a governance framework, there were some leaders that were like, no, we don't need to focus on that. We need to focus on bringing in revenue. We need to focus on our platform and how to better enhance our platforms, right? All of that's great. And as I told them, and operational efficiency, right? Those were the three things we wanted to focus on. But like I told them, like, that's great. Continue to do those things. But behind the scenes, I'm building out the framework. And
Yes.
what ended up happening was that those worlds kind of came together and now we're moving together in a way that really not only benefits the business operationally, but it protects us more from a liability perspective. Because make no mistake, if people are not paying attention, by the way, leaders, if you're not paying attention, I would also say start looking at some of these AI laws. The EU the EU AI Act that's coming into effect. They actually extended it to December of 2027. But just be aware that I think there are about 20 states here that are developing AI laws. So start working on that governance framework. That's all I can tell you. Please, I'll share my information. Happy to help navigate some of that. But man, please start thinking about it.
It is critical, isn't it? T'Juana, it's interesting because the shift and the importance of a governance guide rail, like actually looking at AI, the implementation, and I think you talking about the shadow AI is I don't think people talk enough about it to be truthful. I think people kind of puts their little blinders on and they're like, if they're on the side that I really don't want AI, it's like, nope, it's not here, but it is here. And leadership has to really open up and look at their own internal biases towards AI. Are they, and again, these are like generalizations, but are they for, are they against it? Where are they on that continuum of understanding, number one, and then utilizing it, number two, so they have that lived experience, but really focusing on what does this mean long term, like that sustainable impact, because we're going through this. So I want to dive into that question with you. So what does sustainable leadership look like to you in the environments that you're finding yours, particularly in the work that you're doing, that leaders are constantly challenged with, or that they're having performance challenges with, that they need to really dive into and understand a little bit more to be successful long term?
Whew. I think the main thing, right, is companies are constantly moving the goalposts, right? Because again, priorities change, you pivot, all of those things as I shared before. But how you show up as a leader shouldn't change. The sustainability of your leadership, who you are today should be who you are 5 years from now, 10 years from now. That doesn't mean that you don't grow and constantly, become, which is great. But at the end of the day, I think that you just need to focus on showing up, delivering, and leading. And if you do those things, no matter what comes in front of you, you're going to sustain and get through whatever that comes forward. But you have to know exactly who you are as a leader and how you want to show up for people. I'm very aware of how I want to show up for my teams. And I always, for me, I'll just give myself, because I don't want to speak for anyone else. As a leader, the way I show up and how I sustain and endure all of this is that I have standing meetings with my teams one-on-one. We meet collectively as a group so that everyone's aware of what everyone else is working on, because if there's a change in one part of the organization or that's going to impact, we have our chance to talk about it. And then the last thing is that I have like the voluntary coffee chats, right? And in doing that, we don't talk about work. If you talk about work, you have to do 10 push-ups.
I love it.
It's a thing. And so hopefully this will all resonate. But the reason for that, right? Those are three kind of different things. They get the one-on-one attention where I get to show up, hear from them individually about what it is that they're facing, how we're going to build their roadmap for the next 1, 3, 5 years, right? And so then as a leader, I am showing up and leading and supporting them. The group conversations shows them and helps them to understand how to collaborate. We're working across functions, everything like that. So you can't afford to think working in a silo is the way to go. There's always a cross-pollination of certain work. So I love that we have that time. And then, yes, the coffee talks that we have where I get to understand who they are as humans, not just as employees in the business. So you take those three different approaches, and as a leader, how I sustain all of this, I'm the same I am today. I can guarantee you in 5 years, if I'm still here and with this same group or more groups coming in, it will be the same thing. And so I just think that by focusing on delivering, leading, and just showing up as T'Juana, I think that's what's helped me to be. And I think that's my reputation through the company. I would honestly say, I think people would say I'm consistent and I show up for everyone fully to the best of my ability.
Wow, I love that. And there's some wonderful comments that are coming in that, individuals are learning a lot. And thanks, T'Juana. I mean, it's so important, isn't it? It's being our best versions of ourselves. It's having the presence to really, in some ways, get out of our own heads and just be present with people and understand that person's journey. Like what's happening for you today. And what I'm also taking away, which I really appreciate, is the actual demonstration of how you're building these connections, like heart-centered. And this is the Leadership Heart podcast. So all the great things that you're sharing is things that you too can go and do. So ask yourselves, whether you're leading a team or leading an organization or, beautifully self-managing like yourself, what are you doing and how are you best showing up today? And my big reflection question I always love to ask my guests is, the Leadership Heart podcast, we really are at that intersection of strategy, humanity, and truly conscious leadership in this rapidly changing world. So for you personally, T'Juana, what does it truly mean to lead with heart today?
Well, it goes back to the title of my book and my podcast, Suits and Pajamas, right? It's harmonizing that professional side of all the things that we deal with in the workplace, being a leader, being an individual contributor, because not everyone's in the position of being a leader. It's acknowledging all those challenges and all the fun that comes with that, right? And how you show up, unconscious bias, are you listening, active listening, all those things, right? As a leader, that's a suit side. But you're always kind of harmonizing that pajama side of your own moral compass and how do you want to show up, right? And I take these dynamics and they apply both at home and at work, by the way, because we work from home, a lot of us, and man, does that pajama
hybrid world, lovely.
Yes, that pajama side is knocking on the suit side all the time. And it's a challenge, but what I also learned is taking that soft pajama side of myself and bringing that into the suit side and vice versa. Sometimes at home, I just gotta like be about doing that thing. And so I would say it's just really about navigating that world, harmonizing. I hate the term work-life balance, by the way, if I may just that real quickly.
Yeah. It's going out there and I love it.
It's a thing for me. I get what it meant to accomplish when it was first came out, right? However long ago that was. But we don't live in a world where I don't want to set myself up for failure because it's never going to be balanced. In today's world, if you're showing up as a leader and manager and you have all the things that are going on at home, there are going to be some times where, yes, home life is going to tilt the scale, and you're going to have more weight with that. That doesn't make you a failure as a leader. It just means you're human. And so there comes a time where you're going to have to do more work. We all been there for that. Toddler in the room, but you're
holding up the weight. You're like, oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
But for women in particular, we are
Yeah.
made to feel we have to balance both things equally, and that is not true. And so the
Yeah.
grace in giving yourself the permission to allow one to weigh more than the other, that's why I talk about harmonization, right? So when it's all harmonizing this way, there's just times where different things, different parts of you are going to take priority. And that includes self-care, ladies. Just
Hmm.
self-care sometimes becomes the priority, and you shouldn't feel guilty for it because it's not part of your life, that balance. I can't emphasize that enough. Yeah.
I so agree. I so agree. And there are days where it's just like, no, well, every day actually. I've purposely with intention now. I get my watch on, and my steps remind me, okay, how many steps have you done today? And I
Yes.
go out and I go for a walk. Like, it's the simple things of grounding into like the present moment, taking a breath so we can be more present is different than having presence, right? And
Mhm.
just being present with yourself. And so when you go into work, whether it's hybrid, like you're at home working or going into an office, if we take that time, then we ground ourselves, we go for a walk, we feel more essentially who we are. We're not that scattered reactionary person that's coming in fragmented. And sometimes
Right.
that does happen. And you're
Mhm.
just like, let's be present in this moment and then approach our tasks for the day.
Yeah, and
For
when you're
sure.
feeling fragmented, it's
Hmm.
okay. Again,
Yeah.
I feel very strongly like we are human, and as human
Hmm.
leaders, because if we're going through it, you can best believe your teams are going through it. So if you're already reconciling that, though, it actually helps you to give grace to your team who may be going through something similar or something else, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, and then when you have, again, leading with heart, um, you give them the ability to come to you with those things. I hope my team always knows they can come to me with the things without judgment, without making them feel like they're somehow slacking on the job. Why? Because I know what that's like to sometimes where home life does kind of take center stage.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I won't get the work done. It's just not at that moment. Pause. And
Is
then,
exactly. It's just not at this moment. And
yeah,
I love that. And we're coming to the end of our great time together today. And I know we could talk for a long time. And one of the things that I want to make sure that all of my beautiful listeners, whether you're live with us today or when it gets uploaded into podcast, how can people learn a little bit more about you, T'Juana? Your book, I would love for people to have your book.
yeah, of course. Probably the easiest way, because of course everything's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and
Yeah.
e-readers. But probably the easiest way, because I give links to that, is on my website, which is Suits and Pajamas, spelled out A&D. So suitsandpajamas.com. And if you want to learn more about like my professional career and what I've done, you can go to our gumgum.com website and learn about our business, or my own personal website, twanaalbert.com. So many different ways you can reach me.
I love it. And I just want to thank everyone today. It's always a journey. And today T'Juana has shared from her heart, her through her own self-discovery and how she's become this amazing, incredible leader who is truly transforming organizations through not only the change that she's bringing, but her presence and, helping people also to guide them through that change for all of us to have that sustainable impact, which as a global world that we're living in, the connection is so, so important. So take what you've heard today and then ask yourself, what is one action that you can do to truly implement perhaps something different? Something, it could be a small little thing, not only for yourself, but maybe for your family, for your teams next week. Take something and then take that action, because it's through that beautiful heart led action that things change. So I want to thank you for coming to the Leadership Heart podcast. We have so many other amazing, beautiful guests that are coming up over the next couple weeks. But T'Juana, thank you again for this opportunity to share your heart, to share your wisdom. And everyone, please do connect with T'Juana. She is one of those beautiful people that you will want to be connected to. So until the next time and the next guest, thank you again for today. Bye for now.